Tell us, how's the situation back at home?
The situation is on the critical juncture. As you already mentioned, the Russian war in Ukraine could make the biggest humanitarian crisis, not only in the Europe, but all over the world. So we expecting the Russia withdraw as soon as possible. And the first step already done. We had the first round of the negotiations on the high level between our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Kuleba, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Lavrov, with the mediation of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Turkey. So we're expecting the quickest resolving of the situation.
So far, though, we have failed to see any progress, despite the fact that Ukrainian officials have been open to discussions of Ukraine's neutrality as demanded by Russia. So what's next?
This is a difficult question and always in the hands of the negotiators. So we are open for the discussion. And as our minister said, the Ukraine is now on the critical juncture. So we are open to sit at the table on the highest level. Our president said to the President Putin that he is waiting for Putin to sit on the table of negotiations for the discussions and resolving the situation in Ukraine. But first of all, the Putin has stopped its invasion, withdraw its forces, open the humanitarian green corridors for Ukrainians which is blocked on the Ukrainian cities. And we are thankful to the international community and South Korea in particular for joining the coordinating efforts to sanction Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. But I think we need to do more. As you know, the Putin has, yeah.
I was actually just going to ask, what more are you asking allies here in Asia in particular to do?
What more? Let me say that Putin has violated all possible human rights, as well as international rules and agreements. There is no single reason left for the civilized world not to push Russia with full scale of sanctions, I can say. We expect that this pressure continues. We need to hit harder in this way. So this could be the introduction of full-fledged trade embargo on Russia, including the oil and gas sector, closing the airspace and not allowing crossing into from Russia airspace, closing ports for Russian transport ships, stop satellite broadcasting by Russian channels, stop implementation of joint infrastructure project, ban export, withdraw of large companies, which already done by, for example, Samsung Electronics already stopped its trade with Russia. We're expecting the other companies like LG, Hyundai, I mean the Korean companies, which as an ambassador of Ukraine in Korea, withdraw from Russia following the example of other global companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, etc.
Prior to your current posting, you were Consul General in Shanghai. Are you surprised by Beijing's response? Do you think more action, a higher level of condemnation from Beijing would have more of an impact for Moscow?
I'm not surprised. The policy of China is predictable. But of course, I'm waiting from China government to do more, especially on the humanitarian field, to provide Ukraine with more humanitarian assistance as well as financial assistance, which already done, but it's not quite enough, I think, from the China side. And with the understanding that Ukraine is the biggest exporter, especially in the sunflower oil for China and the corn grain. So I think China understands what will be the consequences of this war in Ukraine.
What are you asking from the South Korean government and the incoming administration as well?
We highly appreciate the decision of Korea government to draw a plan for humanitarian aid for Ukraine to help support the deteriorating humanitarian situation following by Russia invasion of Ukraine. Korea government provide us with $10 million assistance, and the first cargo already sent by the humanitarian aid sent already to Ukraine several days ago. The shipment, about 1 million, was sent just 9 March by air cargo, and 10 million sage should be delivered by Ukraine within next 2 months. And at the same time, we hope that Korea will not stop at this point and expand its humanitarian and financial support to Ukraine. As I said, Ukraine now is at the critical juncture where we need to defend the very existence of our state. Therefore, defense assistance from Korea is also very important for us. We are aware that Republic of Korea has so far excluded the possibility of military assistance to Ukraine, and we're also interested in procuring supplies of Korean protective equipment for the need of the armed forces of Ukraine.
Ambassador, in these talks that obviously yielded no compromise, prior to that there was the idea that perhaps some compromise could be reached on this idea of neutrality without ceding any territory. What does that look like? Can you define that for us?
I'm ambassador here. I cannot, of course I can comment, but let's receive the explanation of this situation by the foreign minister, because he will comment on it after the negotiations in Turkey.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. I think Heidi has one more question. Go ahead.
Ambassador, I just wanted to let me rephrase that then. If democracy in Ukraine is not upheld at the end of all this, what are the implications when it comes to alliances and the strategic relationships within Asia?
Listen, we appeal to the international community to raise the voice now for Ukraine. Yesterday, I met the former Secretary General of the United Nations Organization, Ban Ki-moon, and discussed with him his assessment and possible involvement in the settling and stopping of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He is very concerned by the development of the situation and promised me to do his utmost and to convey to Putin the idea that he should end this war as soon as possible. And also during the conversation, Mr. Ban Ki-moon presented to me the statement by the elders, which is the independent group of global leaders working together for peace, justice and human rights, established by Nelson Mandela, which the members Jimmy Carter, Mary Robertson, and former Irish president. They issued the joint statement in which they call for a special criminal tribunal to investigate the alleged crime of aggression in Ukraine and hold President Putin to account for the invasion of Ukraine's sovereign territory. But as to our allies, we really need the international community to help us defend ourselves, and we are grateful to our partners as United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, Poland, Baltic states, and the other for supplying us with military assistance, with real weapon. And right now we are in a desperate need of creating a closed sky, it means no-fly zone over Ukraine to prevent Russia from bombing our civilians and civil infrastructure.